Hello and welcome to this program for NewsClick and The Wire. With me here, I have an eminent political scientist, a person who is extremely knowledgeable about what's happening in the state of Karnataka. All eyes are on Karnataka, and in a short while from now, the outcome of the elections to the state legislative assembly will be known. Let me welcome Professor Sandeep Shastri. Thank you so much for giving us your time. You are the Pro Vice Chancellor of Jain University and the national convener of the Lokniti program, which looks at election analysis for the Center for the Study of Developing Societies. Professor Shastri, how significant are these elections at a national level for both the Bharatiya Janata Party as well as for the Congress?
Paranjoy, given the type of attention that Karnataka has got both in the print and the electronic media space, it's very clear that Karnataka is being watched closely by the entire country. I would say for multiple reasons. The two principal contestants at the national level, the BJP and the Congress, are in what looks to be a direct face-off in Karnataka. And therefore, for both these parties, Karnataka is so very critical. For the BJP, if it has to continue its winning streak after 2014, Karnataka is a critical element to, if you may, complete the circle.
After all, Karnataka was the first and only state in southern India which has had a BJP government.
Very true. Karnataka was their gateway to South India. And even today, Karnataka seems to be the only state among the 5 states where the BJP can hope to come to power on its own steam for some time. The fact that they have been in power in Karnataka earlier is both a challenge and an opportunity. There is also another point, Paranjoy, which is that whenever the Congress and the BJP have been in a direct face-off since 2014 at the state level, the Congress has been consistently losing.
I'm going to come to this in greater detail because there is the third play. We cannot ignore the Janata Dal secular. In 2013, they got about a fifth of the vote. So, but when you just look at it from the perspective of the two national parties, the BJP and the Congress, and in the run-up to the next general elections, which are scheduled to take place in April-May 2019, Karnataka becomes extremely important.
Yes, because as you said, if BJP were to win Karnataka, it builds up the momentum for them in the 3 states where they have been in power for a long time, especially Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh and also Rajasthan. So it builds up the momentum for the party in those 3 states and also for next year's Lok Sabha election. So for the BJP, winning Karnataka is critical to maintain that momentum going forward and in preparation for next year's Lok Sabha election. So in that sense, it's a semi-final.
And for the Congress, after having become weaker than it has ever been, India's grand old party in 2014, and Narendra Modi, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's claims that he wants a Congress Mukt Bharat, Karnataka becomes so important.
So very true. This is the only big state they are in power. The other 2.5 states being Punjab, Mizoram and Puducherry. So if the Congress were to lose Karnataka, the BJP dream of a Congress Mukt Bharat no longer remains a rhetoric but becomes much more of a reality. Also, Paranjoy, winning Karnataka for the Congress would put a stop to this continuous losing streak. It implies the Congress has not been able to win back or retain a state they were in power since 2014. And this in a sense reverses that process. And I think also winning Karnataka is important for the Congress to claim that legitimacy of space to lead the anti-BJP coalition.
Correct.
So if you lose Karnataka, you have no claim to that space. And you will have to forfeit that space to somebody from the federal front.
Being the single biggest opposition party in the country.
That's true.
Okay. Now, what is truly unique about Karnataka? It is said that there are conflicting trends. Though in 2013, the Congress did get 122 out of 224 seats in the Vidhan Sabha. If you look at the last 3 decades, especially since 1983, no ruling party in Karnataka has won a majority in the state legislative assembly. At the same time, we also see that typically Karnataka has voted in a manner which is against the so-called national trend. So Karnataka has historically, at least in the recent past, the assembly has been led by a party which is not in power in New Delhi. So in this sense, we see two apparently conflicting trends.
You're perfectly right. Last 32 years, since 1985, a ruling party has not been voted back in Karnataka. There may be a debate about 2004 when no party got a majority and the BJP emerged as the single largest party. And the Congress formed the government in coalition with the JDS. But I would argue that 2004, Congress lost the election, though it formed the government with the JDS. So every election, the ruling party has been voted out. And the second trend you talk about is equally interesting, which actually predates the first trend we talked about. The second trend has been in visible existence in Karnataka for the last 35 years. That is, Karnataka votes in a state assembly election very differently from a national election. Right from 83, you look at every state assembly election. 83, 85, 89, 94, 99,
Correct me if I'm wrong, even earlier. I mean, for instance, the emergency, after the emergency in 77, when the Congress party got voted out of most parts of India, the southern part of India, including Karnataka, they did well.
So some would argue that one of these two trends are likely to be sidetracked with this election. If the BJP were to do well and get a majority, this trend about not aligning with the party in power at the national level would get defeated. If the Congress were to retain power, the fact that a ruling party comes back to power, one of these two are likely to be negated is what a lot of people argue.
This is the big question. And you know, the EVM machines have been sealed. We've had the biggest ever voter turnout, about 72% or a little more than 72%. So this is really the question. Which of these two trends are likely to prevail? So as a political scientist, what is your hunch? I mean, you'll be either proved right or wrong very soon.
I have, at this point of time, I would go against what a lot of people are saying, that Karnataka will have an assembly without a clear party, without a majority for any one party. I would believe that's not likely to happen, and I'll tell you why. I would believe that either the Congress or the BJP would either be close to the majority mark, +5, -5. I'm convinced that either the BJP or the Congress would score a century.
Okay, so I mean the halfway mark is 112.
111 is the halfway mark now.
Because there are two seats.
Two seats are countermanded. So +5, -5 is what I'm looking at. Why do I say that the state is not likely to have a house with no clear majority? We have had such a situation twice in the past, 1983 and 2004. And both these elections, I would argue, were elections of transition. 1983, we were transitioning from a one-party dominant system to a competitive party system. Congress had been continuously in power. So in 1983, people voted out the Congress but did not vote in somebody. They gave Janata Party the largest number of seats, but it required one more election for that competition to be Congress versus Janata Party. 2004 was the second transition where the two main parties in the competition changed. It was Congress versus Janata Dal till then.
It became the BJP.
Congress versus BJP. So that was the second transition. So I'm not too sure that we have any third transition happening this time.
One minute, I'll interrupt you here. The Janata Dal secular, led by former Prime Minister H.D. Deve Gowda and his son, the former Chief Minister H.D. Kumaraswamy, in 2013 got a little over 1/5 of the vote, 20.2%, rough 40 seats in the assembly. There is a view, a widely prevalent view, that Kumaraswamy and Mr. Deve Gowda would be the kingmaker. That if it's a close contest, then the seats that would be obtained by the JDS would make the difference to either party. And the next part of that analysis, or the speculation if you like, is that since the BJP is in power, has been in power for the last 4 years, and it seems to be better endowed at present than the Congress, the chances are advantage BJP.
Now, undoubtedly, the Janata Dal sees itself as a kingmaker. Of course, officially they say we are not the kingmaker, but we are the king. But realistically, I think more of a kingmaker. And their hope is no party gets a majority on its own. And it is inevitable that one of the two approach them to be able to form the government. And now, I would look at both scenarios. If the Congress emerges as the single largest party, the BJP would be very keen to tie up with the Janata Dal simply to prevent the Congress from coming to power, a la Meghalaya, Goa, Manipur, very much similar to that situation.
Where a similar situation, and in the last moment,
sure,
the BJP
swung, manages to ensure that the Congress, because the larger battle is between the Congress and the BJP. If the BJP were to emerge as the single largest party, I think they would be happy to discuss the coalition with the Janata Dal. The only thing is they will be on a stronger wicket and not concede the chief ministership to the Janata Dal.
That's an important point, because either way, assuming, if we say hypothetically, if this is the situation, either if the Congress is the single largest party or the BJP is the single largest party, the two chief ministerial candidates, Mr. Siddaramaiah on one side and Mr. Yediyurappa on the other side, would perhaps tend to get marginalized, because in the deal making, in the bargaining, Mr. Kumaraswamy would at least claim the post of chief minister.
You are perfectly right that if either the BJP or the Congress do not touch a century, and either of them are bidding to come to power, their current chief ministerial candidates will have to be put on the back burner, beyond a shadow of doubt, for a slightly different reason than what you say. If it were to be the BJP, the relationship between Mr. Yediyurappa and the Janata Dal has been of late very, very tense, partly because of the past experience. So if there were to be a tie-up between the BJP and Janata Dal, I think one of the conditions Janata Dal would put is Mr. Yediyurappa is not among the options to lead the government.
But so you can equally argue that since Mr. Siddaramaiah once upon a time was a member of the JDS,
right.
I mean, Mr. Kumaraswamy would say he's ditched me.
If we are talking of a Congress-JDS alliance, the first issue on the table would be Mr. Siddaramaiah not be considered, and some would argue that the statement that the Chief Minister made yesterday, that I am quite okay with the party choosing a Dalit candidate leader as Chief Minister, is linked to this possible development. Because as you rightly said, if you're talking of a Congress-JDS alliance, the JDS would have nothing to do with Mr. Siddaramaiah given his past association with the party. And in that situation, we are talking of a Dalit leader, people are talking of Mallikarjun Kharge, people are talking of Parameshwar, both of whom have reasonably good equations with the Janata Dal leaders. Don't rule out somebody like an S.M. Krishna, like DK Shivkumar also playing a role. So there are several players who could play a role.
Several candidates.
Let me add another point here. Some would argue that, of course, it depends on the seat numbers. Some would even argue the Janata Dal patriarch may be very happy to concede the chief ministership to the BJP or Congress, depending on who is in front, because then it gives him an opportunity to make his elder son, who has never had deputy chief ministership or chief ministership, to make him the
You're
deputy chief
talking about
minister.
Mr. Revanna.
I'm talking of Revanna. It gives him a chance to make Revanna the deputy chief minister either in a Congress-led or a BJP-led government.
So the possibilities are many, and we can speculate, but we don't need to, because in a short while from now the outcome would be known. But your hunches, your instinct says that there is a distinct possibility that we won't have this kind of a situation.
For several reasons. One, I think the fact of a high voter turnout
implies, it's a record turnout.
It's a record turnout to the state.
Over 72%.
Implies for me that there has been very strong mobilization by the parties and a very strong assertion by the voter that she wants to make a point with regard to who should be coming to power. So I think a high voter turnout, depending on the areas we are talking about, would benefit the key players in this contest. And it gives me even greater confidence that a particular party, Congress or BJP, would emerge.
There is, you are the national convener of the Lok Niti program of CSDS, and you've studied this, the voting patterns, voting trends across the country. What does a high voter turnout indicate? Now, there are different views. I mean, one view says that you can't make a claim either way, that it's going to either favor the incumbent regime or it's an anti-incumbency vote. With specific reference to Karnataka, what does this record voter turnout in excess of 72%? Last assembly elections, it was around 70%. What are the implications?
Paranjoy, to the best of my knowledge, there is no empirical proof to demonstrate that a high voter turnout either favors the incumbent or favors the challenger. However, I will add 3 points which I think would be important pointers to this direction. One, Karnataka's battle is essentially in the regions, in the 6 regions of the state. Analysis of the higher voter turnout by region could give you an indication as to who is possibly going to benefit from this. Some people have argued that there has been a significantly high voter turnout in Mumbai, Karnataka. There has been a lower turnout in Mumbai, Karnataka and a higher turnout in coastal Karnataka, Hyderabad, Karnataka and in
Central
the Bengaluru region and Central Karnataka. So that has important implications. The
second, would you like to elaborate on this? As you say, there are broadly 6 regions in Karnataka. In the northern part, you have the Hyderabad Karnataka, the Mumbai Karnataka, then you have the coastal Karnataka, then you have the central part, and the southern part, you can say the old Mysuru and the greater Bangalore region, and the rest of southern Karnataka. What are the likely, I mean, how different are these 5 or 6 regions in the state?
Point number 1, the Congress has a spread across these regions. The Congress support base, vote base is across these regions. On the other hand, historically, the BJP support base has been limited to 4 of these regions. 5 of these regions, I would say. Hyderabad, Karnataka, Mumbai, Karnataka, Central Karnataka, Coastal Karnataka, and the Bengaluru region. The BJP is not much of a force in Southern Karnataka. On the other hand, the Janata Dal is largely a force in Southern Karnataka and in Bengaluru region. You refer to the Janata Dal winning 40 seats last time. In fact, 32 of those seats have been in Southern Karnataka and in the Bengaluru region. So there is a clear variation across regions. In fact, I draw your attention to the 1st May speech of the Prime Minister, where most of us were taken aback when the Prime Minister praised Mr. Devegowda in his speech. Now, a deeper analysis would show that here is the reason. Firstly, he wanted to prove to Mr. Siddaramaiah that you are not the real Kannadiga, because Siddaramaiah had raised this Kannadiga versus non-Kannadiga issue, that you are not the son of the soil, the real son of the soil.
The flag of
all those issues, that you are not the real inheritor of the Kannadiga identity, but it is Devegowda. But more importantly, was this a message of the Prime Minister to the BJP supporters in Southern Karnataka, where the fight was between the Congress and the BJP, between the Congress and the Janata Dal, that
transfer your vote
to the Janata
JDS. I mean, or if you think that in a specific assembly constituency, the contest is really between Congress and JDS.
Transfer the vote
indirectly appealing to the BJP voter to go with the
And
JDS.
Also the fact that they have different support bases. And there are very few states where they both, that is the BJP and JDS, are in direct competition. Now, that also explains why, of course, 2 days later, he retracted that in his next round of speeches. The larger point I'm trying to make is, in these 6 regions of Karnataka, the type of competition is very different. And just one more point on this question of voter turnout. I would say the more important point with regard to voter turnout is who among the voters have come out in larger numbers. If it's likely to be the poor,
inevitably, sir, almost inevitably,
then
is a poor who come out to vote in larger numbers than the rich or the middle class.
This is something which would definitely benefit the Congress party, because study after study has shown that the people who are economically marginalized in Karnataka tend to favor the Congress party more. And it's even more
nothing to do with the incumbency factor.
And it's even more in this election simply because the various welfare schemes which the Congress party
including
started.
the 5 rupees a meal, 10
the
rupees a
Bhagya
meal.
schemes, the various Bhagya schemes. Now, that is something which a lot of people believe has touched the poorer sections of the society. And therefore, a higher voter turnout among those sections is beneficial for the Congress. The other is, if you have a higher turnout among middle class and the more affluent voters, that would be something that would benefit the BJP. And again, the record of Bengaluru city shows that voter turnout has not significantly increased in Bengaluru city.
It is more in the
it's
rural
more the
area.
rural areas. And as luck would have it, you had an election on a second Saturday. And on Friday evening,
People
you
tend
had
to go
long
out for
queues of
holiday.
people in the airport deciding to leave the city. So that's one important indicator with regard to who could have benefited from a higher voter turnout.
Okay. Let me look a little bit at the caste equations. Again, often it is argued that the two dominant castes, the Lingayats, accounting for roughly 17% of the population, and the Okaligas, accounting for roughly 15% of the population, they are considered to be the politically more influential castes. That in a sense, their views tend to influence the political or politics in Karnataka. So if you look at caste equations, and in the context of the Siddaramaiah government, the minority status for Lingayats, which the BJP and the RSS, they have a different point of view because they say the Lingayats are part of the Hindu community. How would you see the caste factor playing out? How do you think the caste factor has played out in these elections?
From 1956 onwards, Paranjay, the Lingayats and Vokaligas taken together account for more than half the MLAs of Karnataka, every assembly election. Now,
Though they account for roughly 1/3 of the population.
that's the other debatable point. There has been no officially released caste census that was done during British days, and we are extrapolating from those days and coming to 17 and 15%. The Siddaramaiah government actually conducted a caste census which was incomplete, and it was not released because of the controversy it would generate. But the leaked caste census shows actually that the Lingayat and Vokaliga community, as per that census, was around 9 and 8% of the population in reality.
That means they've shrunk.
It's
compared to the
actually
British time.
17% taken together. And the scheduled castes, of course, that's a government category. You need to look at each caste separately, but all of them taken together was actually around 22% of the population. But then going back to your main point, the Lingayat community, which is largely dominant in northern Karnataka, Mumbai Karnataka and Hyderabad Karnataka regions, and central Karnataka to an extent, the Lingayat community has been the backbone of the BJP support. Every election last 15 years, save the 2008 election, save the 2013 election, the BJP has been getting the bulk of the Lingayat votes. Partly because they have a Lingayat face as their chief minister,
Mr. Yediyurappa.
And partly because the Congress has never been forgiven by that community for having very, very unceremoniously removed the last Lingayat to be chief minister under the Congress, Mr. Virendra Patil. In 1990, Rajiv Gandhi just announced Karnataka will have a new chief minister, and that has for the last 38 years, really nothing has been done by the party. 28 years.
Yes.
Nothing has been done by the party to remedy that situation. Now, towards the end of his government, Siddaramaiah announced that we would accord minority status, religion status to the Lingayat community. Now, the hope was that this would drive a wedge in that monolith support that the Lingayat community has given the BJP, and at least a part of it would move towards the Congress. Now, surveys seem to indicate that this has not happened. Surveys seem to indicate that the community still seems to be strongly behind the BJP.
But if indeed the numbers are not as large as is presumed, the question would arise is what kind of influence the Lingayat community would have on other sections of voters, those belonging to other castes.
While numerically there may be a debate on how much they constitute, in terms of candidates, they are a critical number in both the Congress and the BJP. And in terms of influence in their constituencies, I think they do play an important role. However, I must also add this point. The Congress move to give this minority status to the Lingayat community has resulted possibly in a backlash among the Vokkaligas, who say that while you have done something for one dominant caste, you have not really done anything for us. And the backlash of that, some people feel, was felt in the old Mysore region, Bangalore and southern Karnataka, where the
JDS
saw a Vokkaliga consolidation.
That's correct. But and especially because Mr. Devegowda and Mr. Kumaraswamy belong to that community.
However, I must add another point. This dominant caste consolidation towards the BJP and the Janata Dal has worked in another way, which is the non-dominant backward castes, who are numerically quite large in number.
Such as?
The Kurubas, the Idigas.
To which Mr. Siddaramaiah belongs.
The Kurubas is the community to which Mr. Siddaramaiah belongs. They have strongly consolidated in favor of the Congress. So you have this social...
So if you look at the big picture of the state, how would you summarize the way the caste equations could play out?
The BJP seems to be the party preferred by the Lingayats and the upper castes in large numbers. The Janata Dal seems to continue to be the party which is supported by a majority of the Vokkaligas, whereas the Congress seems to have consolidated its presence among the non-dominant OBCs, among the Muslims, among the Dalits, and among the tribals. And I will emphasize the last three a little more. There was a belief that the Muslim vote could get split between the Janata Dal and the Congress. Data shows this may actually not have happened, partly because of the belief that the Janata Dal and the BJP are in a tacit understanding, and this led, many would believe, in southern Karnataka for the Muslim vote to gravitate towards the Congress party.
No, on this point, it is, correct me once again if I'm wrong, it is presumed that the coastal Karnataka, the coastal region of Karnataka is arguably where the communal divide has been very, very evident and intense, or has intensified in the recent past. We've heard about the activities of groups like the Sri Ram Sene. We know about, again, internecine fights. Vinayak Baliga, who's supposed to be close to Mr. Yediyurappa, he exposes what is supposed to be corruption in the temple trusts, and then he is attacked by Naresh Shenoy, who's the founder of the Namo Brigade. So, I mean, again, two questions. How united is the so-called Hindu consolidation, is it working on the ground? Is it working especially in Karnataka, in coastal Karnataka? And you could perhaps analyze what's happening in other parts of the state as well.
As you rightly said, I would do it in two different ways, looking at coastal Karnataka separately and the rest of the state on the question of Hindu consolidation. Coastal Karnataka has historically seen this consolidation, not just in this election, but it's been happening for quite some time now. Given the strong presence of minority communities in coastal Karnataka, especially the Muslims and the Christians, and also the economic power that they have started to wield, what the BJP has been to a certain extent successful in doing in coastal Karnataka is ensuring a majority community mobilization in the coastal region. So if you drive across the coastal region, you will very clearly see the polarization that has happened on very strong religious lines, very clearly on religious lines. And that's the reason a lot of people would believe that the BJP is likely to do well in the coastal region because of this polarization that is achieved. There is another factor. Coastal Karnataka has always seen with every election a switch from the Congress to the BJP and BJP to the Congress. And last time the Congress did very well in the coastal region. So people believe both these factors are operating. Across the state, I would say that this mobilization on religious lines has not been as intense as you notice in the coastal region. Again, the last survey which the CSDS Lokniti did, which was in the first week of May. Now that survey shows
First week of May of
this year. I mean, we did
Okay,
a
now,
we did a
just
pre-poll
now.
just 10 days ago. That poll shows that the Hindu vote, if you may, the Hindu vote is more or less equally divided between the Congress and the BJP. The belief
so
was
that means the consolidation may not have happened.
it has not really happened as much as people thought it would happen outside the coastal belt. Within the coastal belt, yes, that consolidation has been very intense. But outside the coastal belt, it has not worked so much, simply because I believe other factors are in play, that the social coalitions that are in place are in play. And that may have impacted on religious polarization not being the only factor which defines and decides the direction that voters go.
Okay. My last set of questions to you, and this is regarding the issue of corruption. And specifically, when we look at the illegal miners, Gali Janardhan Reddy, he is himself not contesting, but his associates, his family members are contesting. I remember when I interviewed you when I was making a documentary film almost 8 years ago, and you talked about how the Reddy brothers and their sort of relationship with the Bharatiya Janata Party and the RSS, and you compared them to a family where there are two sisters-in-law. One wife has come from a rich family, and another sister is from the same community. So she is accepted because she is a wife, but she's been there because of her money. But there is a subtle, or sometimes not so subtle, sort of differentiation between the two wives belonging to or wives of the two brothers. I found this a very interesting analogy. But today all these, it's no longer nuanced anymore. It's no longer subtle anymore. The same set of people who were accused of corruption by, among others, the then Lokayukta, Justice Santosh Hegde. And it's all documented in writing, how the family members of Mr. Yediyurappa benefited. I mean, it's all there in black and white. But they say, well, where's the case against us? Gali Janardhan Reddy has spent about 3 years in jail. Mr. Yediyurappa, 3 weeks in jail, or a little more. And then after that, he breaks away from the party, now he's back. So I want you to analyze for me the relationship between the Bharatiya Janata Party in Delhi. You remember the famous picture where you show Sushma Swaraj with her hands on the two. And then later on, Sushma Swaraj says, I have not got a single paisa from them. How do you analyze the impact of the BJP embracing the Gali Janardhan Reddy and the miners, the so-called dirty miners of Ballari?
Paranjay, as elections approach, this very esoteric term, winnability, and nobody has really defined what are the contours of this winnability. Now, winnability becomes the issue. And I think the way in which the Reddy brothers have made a return to mainstream politics, I think is a reflection of that. But I must add another point. I would say both the Congress and the BJP are guilty of having given nominations to people whose records on the mining issue itself have not been clean.
The Lad family was always with the Congress, but Anand Singh, who was an MLA belonging to the BJP, is now with the Congress. But you could argue that the people who were supposed to be spearheading the illegal mining scam, they are today very much with the BJP. Not just Somashekar Reddy, Sri Ramulu.
Now, what is grabbing public attention is the fact that at the national level, the BJP has launched this very strong campaign of fighting corruption, of not defending those who have violated the law, and even in 2014, when you had the Lok Sabha elections, the Reddy brothers were kept out of the whole
Prime
picture.
Minister Modi's famous statement, "Na khaunga, na khane dunga."
So, but then The state unit of the BJP chief ministerial candidate has clearly said that the Reddy brothers are important in winning 10 to 12 seats. And therefore, in a close election, this becomes important.
Those 10 to 12 seats matter a lot.
So, at one stage, the BJP tried to maintain this distance, that the state unit of the party wants these brothers in, but we don't want them anywhere close. The party president has consistently maintained that Janardhan Reddy is not officially anywhere on the podium of the BJP. He cancelled a rally in Bellary for that reason. But interestingly, when the Prime Minister's rally was held in Bellary, the cousins
they
were
all
all
very
on the
much
stage
there.
because they were contestants. So I don't know if this is a price that the BJP thought has to be paid in that desperate bid to be able to win a state. Now, I think tomorrow we'll get to know whether it has actually worked. Because there is also this view that to win a few seats, which ultimately you may not also win, have you sacrificed something, have you sacrificed that moral edge across the state and across the country?
Across the country, correct.
So that's an important question. But and if you look at this debate anywhere, whenever the BJP is asked, what is this you have done, they will never answer that question. But they will say, look, the Congress has also fielded these such people.
No, and you also see also the CBI, the Central Bureau of Investigation, apparently, just giving them a clean sheet in some cases, or just not going ahead with the investigations of these cases on what appears to be rather flimsy grounds.
I hope the sagacity of the Karnataka voter, who at the end of the day can actually put a stop to this, would clearly send a message in this election saying, irrespective of party, if somebody does not have a clean image, we are not going to elect them, we are not going to support them. That will be a very strong message to every political party that next time you put up a candidate, be careful on this fact, because at the end of the day, the voter does not take kindly to this issue.
Once again, we have conflicting views. You recall in the mid 80s and the late 80s, people said, Bofors won't matter for Rajiv Gandhi. But today, on hindsight, we said, no, the impact of Bofors on Rajiv Gandhi, he was the youngest ever prime minister, his rise was as spectacular as his decline. So this whole issue of corruption, whether it matters at all to ordinary voters, especially poor people.
In fact, there are two conflicting trends which are coming up. When we asked in our survey whether Siddaramaiah government has done enough to check corruption, or has corruption increased or decreased or remained the same during Congress rule, people said actually that the corruption has increased. On the other hand,
it's got nothing to do with his what?
Nothing to do with the Humboldt watch.
His watch, which is also.
But then the same people, when asked which is the most corrupt party in Karnataka, Congress, BJP, or Janata Dal, they actually pointed out to the BJP. So the people do feel that the corruption record of the BJP has not been very clean, has not been very something positive, and they also believe that the Siddaramaiah government has not done enough to be able to check corruption in the state. So both get very poor marks on this critical issue.
Okay, so if I have to summarize your views, and if you sort of tie up all the, sort of connect all the dots and tie up all the loose ends, we just have a little while to wait before we know the outcome. You would say your view is that it's slight advantage to the Congress, is it?
It's a slight advantage to the Congress. One of the two is definitely going to be in triple digits. It looks to be either the Congress or the BJP. The Congress seems to be having a nose ahead. However, the last week of campaign, where you saw the Prime Minister really
pulling out all stops,
increasing the rallies that he had and all that, whether that actually has impacted on the voter, whether that has been translated by the party cadres on the ground, will be the critical question.
Okay.
And if that has happened, I would not be surprised if the BJP actually moves ahead of the
like a good analyst and a good scholar, you are hedging your bets a little bit. But thank you so much.
I think I would. I respect the sagacity of the Karnataka voter, who I think at the end of the day would give a verdict which would provide for that stability in the state for 5 years. Which of the two parties the voter feels, I think I would bow my head down to the wisdom of the voter in that regard.
Okay, thank you so much for giving us your time and for this very, very lucid analysis. And we just have a short while to wait before the outcome of
Thank
the
you so
elections
much.
would be known. You just heard and watched eminent political scientist Professor Sandeep Shastri explaining the various factors that could influence the outcome of the Legislative Assembly elections in Karnataka. You just have a short while to wait before you know the final outcome. Thank you for being with us.